The massive ships came from the dark between stars, their hulls gleaming like black mirrors against the void. Admiral Vexithara stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the small blue world grow larger on the viewing screen. Earth. Such a simple name for what would soon become another jewel in the NIGMA Empire's crown. Another primitive world, said her tactical officer, his crystalline form clicking as he moved. Single planet population, no space colonies, their technology appears to be at least 500 years behind ours. Vexithara nodded. In her 3 centuries of service, she had overseen 47 first contact missions. They all ended the same way. The primitive species would see the might of the NIGMA Empire, understand their hopeless situation, and submit. It was the natural order of things. The NIGMA Empire had ruled the Andromeda Spiral for 3,000 years. 7 advanced alien races had joined together to create the most powerful force the galaxy had ever known. The crystalline hegemony provided the technology. The metal shapers built the ships. The mind weavers handled communications. The star dancers navigated through space. The death singers fought the battles. The life binders healed the wounded. The stone speakers governed the conquered worlds. Together, they were unstoppable. Begin standard first contact protocol, Vexithara ordered. Send them our greeting message in their most common languages. The message was simple and had been used countless times before. The NIGMA Empire offered these humans a choice. Join willingly and receive advanced technology, extended lifespans, and a place in galactic civilization. Refuse and face conquest. Most species chose wisely. On Earth, the message reached every radio, television, and computer screen at the same time. President Chen of the Asian Alliance watched it in her office. Prime Minister Johnson of the European Federation saw it during his morning briefing. General Martinez of the American Union received it while reviewing defense reports. The alien ambassador on the screen was tall and graceful, her skin like living crystal that caught and reflected light. When she spoke, her words were translated perfectly into every human language. People of Earth, she said, her voice carrying across the world. I am Ambassador Vexithara of the NIGMA Empire. We have watched your species for some time. You have shown promise, but you remain trapped on a single world, fighting among yourselves over resources and territory. She paused, letting her words sink in. We offer you a better path. Join the NIGMA Empire as a client species. We will provide you with technology beyond your current understanding. We will extend your lifespans to centuries instead of decades. We will give you the stars themselves. Your warriors will serve in our fleets. Your scientists will learn from the greatest minds in the galaxy. Your people will know peace and prosperity. The crystal being smiled, though the expression looked cold on her alien features. This offer is made to all species we encounter. Most accept gratefully. Those who refuse... She let the threat hang in the air. Well, the choice is yours. You have 7 days to decide. The transmission ended, leaving Earth in chaos. Emergency meetings began in every capital city. The United Nations Security Council held an emergency session. Military leaders around the world started making phone calls. Scientists tried to analyze the alien technology they had witnessed. But not everyone was panicking. In a secure bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, the Earth Defense Council had been meeting in secret for 3 days. This group existed in the shadows, known only to a few world leaders. Their job was to plan for threats that governments could not publicly acknowledge. Secretary General Maria Santos stood at the head of the table, looking at the faces around her. General Williams of North America, Admiral Petrov of the Northern Alliance, Field Marshal Singh of the Commonwealth Forces, Dr. Elizabeth Harper, Earth's leading expert on theoretical warfare. Recommendations? Santos asked. General Williams spoke first. Their technology is clearly superior. Our satellites detected their ships while they were still beyond Pluto. The energy readings are off the charts. In a straight fight, we would lose. Admiral Petrov nodded grimly. Their ships number in the hundreds. Each one appears to be larger than our biggest aircraft carrier. They could destroy our entire space-based infrastructure in hours. Field Marshal Singh leaned forward. However, we should not assume they understand warfare as we do. Most advanced civilizations in science fiction stories have moved beyond conflict. They may be powerful but inexperienced in actual combat. Dr. Harper pulled up holographic displays. I've been analyzing their message. Notice how they refer to client species and service in their fleets. This suggests they prefer to absorb rather than destroy. They want us intact and functional, Santos. Studied the data. What does that tell us? It tells us they expect us to be reasonable, Dr. Harper replied. Every species they have encountered has eventually submitted. They probably see war as an inefficient waste of resources. General Williams frowned. You're suggesting they don't understand what they're dealing with? Exactly, Dr. Harper said. Humans are different. We have been fighting each other for our entire history. We know war in ways these aliens cannot imagine. War is not just something we do. War is what we are. Santos looked around the table. Are we all in agreement then? The vote was unanimous. 2 days later, every television station on Earth broadcast the same message. Every radio station played it. Every internet connection carried it. The message was transmitted on all frequencies toward the alien fleet. It was sent in every human language and encoded in mathematical principles that any advanced civilization would understand. Secretary General Santos appeared on screen, wearing a simple blue suit. Behind her stood representatives from every nation on Earth. When she spoke, her voice was calm and steady. Ambassador Vexithara of the NIGMA Empire. This is Secretary General Maria Santos of the Earth Defense Council, speaking for all humanity. She paused, looking directly into the camera. We have considered your offer carefully. We understand the power of your empire. We recognize the advanced nature of your technology. We acknowledge that in terms of pure military strength, you surpass us greatly. Another pause. We reject your offer completely. Across the galaxy, on worlds that had submitted to NIGMA rule decades or centuries ago, beings stopped what they were doing to listen. This was unprecedented. Santos continued. We are humanity. We have known war since we learned to pick up sticks and stones. We have fought each other for thousands of years over everything from water rights to religious beliefs. We have created weapons capable of destroying our own world, and we have done so while sharing the same small planet. Her voice grew stronger. We do not kneel. We do not submit. We do not surrender. These concepts are alien to us, not because we cannot understand them, but because we choose to reject them. She stepped closer to the camera. You offer us slavery, disguised as partnership. You promise us peace at the cost of our freedom. You assume we will choose the easy path because every other species has done so. Santos smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You are wrong. The transmission continued. For another minute, with Santos explaining exactly what would happen if the NIGMA fleet chose to attack. She described humanity's capacity for violence, their willingness to sacrifice everything for freedom, and their complete dedication to destroying any enemy who threatened their independence. The message ended with a simple statement that would be remembered across the galaxy for generations to come. Leave our system now, Ambassador Vexithara. Leave while you still can. This is not a threat. This is not a negotiation. This is a warning. We are humanity, and we have never lost a war when our survival was at stake. The transmission ended. On her flagship, Ambassador Vexithara stared at the blank screen in disbelief. In 3 centuries of first contact missions, no species had ever refused the Empire's offer. None had been foolish enough to threaten retaliation. She began composing her report to the High Council, recommending immediate military action to subjugate this obviously deranged species before their madness could spread to other worlds. She had no idea what she was about to unleash. 6 months after humanity's rejection, the sky above Earth filled with death. The NIGMA 7th Conquest Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like a swarm of metallic locusts. 200 warships, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. Their hulls gleamed with exotic metals that seemed to bend light around them. Energy readings from their weapons made Earth's most powerful nuclear reactors look like candles. Fleet Commander Zeph Cole stood on the bridge of his dreadnought, the inevitable victory. He was a death singer, one of the Empire's warrior race. His body was covered in scales that shifted color with his emotions, currently showing deep purple stripes of annoyance. This assignment was beneath him. He had conquered 43 worlds. for the Empire. Most surrendered at the first sight of his fleet. "Status report," he growled to his tactical officer. "The humans have been busy, Commander," the officer replied, his own scales showing yellow patterns of confusion. "They have constructed defensive platforms throughout their asteroid belt. Mars appears to have been converted into a military installation. Their moon is covered with weapon emplacements." Zefkol's scales shifted to amused orange. "Primitive, kinetic weapons and nuclear missiles. How quaint. It will make no difference." He was right about human technology being primitive. In the 6 months since first contact, Earth's governments had worked frantically to prepare for war. Every nation had contributed resources. The International Space Station had been converted into a weapons platform. The asteroid belt now bristled with missile launchers and railgun emplacements. Mars had been evacuated of civilians and turned into one massive military base. But compared to NIGMA technology, these preparations looked like children playing with toys. Dr. Elizabeth Harper floated in the command center of Luna Base, watching the tactical displays. The alien fleet was moving inward from the outer system, their weapons charging with energy readings that made her stomach clench. Around her, military officers from every Earth nation coordinated the defense. "They're going to demonstrate their power first," she said to General Williams, who was commanding the overall defense. "Standard procedure would be to destroy something we consider valuable but not essential." Williams nodded grimly. "Pluto's in their path." They watched on the long-range telescopes as a single NIGMA ship broke formation and approached the dwarf planet. A beam of twisted space-time lanced out from the ship's forward weapons array. Pluto didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, torn apart at the molecular level by forces that human science could barely comprehend. The message was clear: surrender or watch your worlds die. Instead of surrendering, humanity responded by detonating nuclear charges around their own defensive positions. The explosions created massive clouds of radioactive debris that spread through local space like a glowing fog. NIGMA sensors, designed for precise targeting, suddenly found their accuracy reduced by the chaotic electromagnetic interference. "Interesting," Dr. Harper murmured. "They just blinded themselves to hurt us." As the NIGMA fleet moved into the inner system, the first battle began near the asteroid belt. Human defenders had hidden among the rocks, turning entire asteroids into missile platforms. When the alien ships came within range, space erupted with thousands of projectiles launched from unexpected directions. The NIGMA ships barely noticed. Their shields absorbed the primitive attacks effortlessly. Their return fire vaporized human positions with casual precision, but something was wrong with the attack patterns. Commander Zefkol frowned as he watched the tactical display. The humans were not fighting efficiently. Instead of concentrating their forces for maximum effect, they were spreading out, forcing his ships to hunt them individually. Instead of retreating when outmatched, they were charging directly at his vessels. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, scales now showing red patterns of alarm. "The human ship Defiance is on a collision course with the cruiser Silent Death. They're not responding to our warning shots." "Destroy them," Zefkol ordered. The Silent Death fired its main weapons, tearing through the human ship's hull like paper. But the Defiance kept coming, its captain somehow keeping the engines running even as the ship came apart around him. The human vessel slammed into the NIGMA cruiser's forward section, its remaining nuclear missiles detonating on impact. Both ships were destroyed. Zefkol's scales shifted to confused yellow. They committed suicide for a single cruiser? It happened again 20 minutes later. The human destroyer Spartacus, its weapons systems destroyed and life support failing, rammed the NIGMA battleship Stone Crusher. The explosion took out both vessels and damaged 2 nearby ships. "Commander," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the human ship before it struck." The captain said, "Remember the Alamo." "What does that mean?" "Unknown, sir. Human databases suggest it refers to a military defeat in their history." Zefkol's confusion deepened. Why would they reference a defeat while attacking? These humans made no sense. The battle continued for 18 hours. NIGMA forces steadily pushed through the asteroid belt, destroying human positions with methodical precision. But the cost was higher than anyone had anticipated. Human pilots flew their ships like guided missiles, ramming NIGMA vessels when their weapons failed. Human soldiers, when their positions were overrun, detonated suicide charges that killed attackers and defenders alike. By the time the fleet reached Mars, Zefkol had lost 12 ships, not a significant number compared to his total force, but more than he had lost in his previous 5 campaigns combined. Mars was supposed to fall quickly. Intelligence suggested the humans had perhaps 50,000 soldiers on the planet, armed with primitive weapons. The reality was much worse. Every building on Mars had been converted into a fortress. Every tunnel in the mining colonies had been turned into a bunker. The humans had spent months studying every previous NIGMA conquest, learning from the tactics that had defeated other species. When NIGMA dropships landed, they found enemies who refused to fight fairly. Humans used chemical weapons that violated every civilized rule of warfare. They booby-trapped their own medical facilities to kill anyone who tried to help wounded prisoners. They launched attacks during negotiations under flags of truce. Captain Thaxmore of the Stone Speakers led a company of NIGMA soldiers through the ruins of New Shanghai on Mars. His species were natural diplomats, expected to govern conquered territories. He had never seen such destruction. "The humans poisoned their own water supply rather than let us use it," he reported to his superiors. "They destroyed their own power plants when we tried to capture them intact. They are fighting as if they prefer mutual destruction to defeat." His soldiers found messages scrawled on walls throughout the city. "Death before dishonor. Remember Earth. Make them pay for every meter." The siege of Mars lasted 2 months. When it finally fell, the NIGMA forces controlled a dead world. The humans had destroyed everything rather than let it be captured. Worse, the fighting had cost Zefkol 38 ships and over 1 million soldiers. "Request reinforcements," he transmitted to NIGMA High Command. "These humans fight like nothing we have encountered. They appear to prefer death to surrender." The response came back within days. "Reinforcements approved. The 12th and 15th fleets are being dispatched. Total forces will be 600 ships and 50 million soldiers. End this quickly." Zefkol looked at the tactical display showing Earth, still defiant behind its crude defenses. The blue planet was surrounded by the wreckage of human ships, but radio transmissions showed the population was still preparing to fight. One message, broadcast on all frequencies, reached his translation computers. "Come and take them." He had heard similar words before, from a human historical database his intelligence officers had captured. The phrase had been spoken by an ancient human king when asked to surrender his weapons to a superior force. That king and his army had died fighting. Zefkol's scales showed deep red patterns of frustration. How do you conquer a species that views death as preferable to defeat? How do you govern people who would rather destroy everything than submit? For the first time in his military career, Fleet Commander Zefkol began to wonder if this campaign was a mistake. The reinforcements arrived like a second wave of nightmares. The 12th and 15th NIGMA fleets emerged from hyperspace with 400 fresh warships, their hulls unmarked by battle. Combined with what remained of Zefkol's original force, the alien armada now numbered 600 vessels surrounding Earth like a steel noose. Commander Zefkol should have felt confident. No species in galactic history had ever withstood such overwhelming force. His ships could crack continents. His soldiers numbered 50 million. His weapons could sterilize entire worlds. Instead, he felt a growing unease that made his scales flicker between purple and yellow. The problem was the humans themselves. In the 8 months since the siege began, they should have broken. Their outer defenses were gone. Mars was a dead ruin. Luna Base had been pounded into rubble. Earth stood alone, a single blue world against the might of the NIGMA Empire. But they kept fighting. "Status report," Zefkol demanded as he entered. "The tactical center of his flagship. The humans have modified 17 of our captured vessels," his intelligence officer reported, scales showing frustrated red. "They are using hybrid technology we don't fully understand. Our weapon systems are 40% less effective than they were 6 months ago." Zefkol studied the tactical display. Scattered around Earth's orbit were dozens of human ships, cobbled together. From salvaged alien technology and human ingenuity, they looked wrong, like metal tumors growing on the bones of proper spacecraft. But they fought with deadly efficiency. "How are they learning our technology so quickly?" "Unknown, Commander, but we have intercepted human transmissions discussing our weapon frequencies, shield harmonics, and tactical weaknesses. They appear to be treating this siege as a learning experience. The thought chilled Zefkol. Most species fought to avoid destruction. These humans seemed to be fighting to understand their enemies better. Down on Earth's surface, the war had taken a different character. NIGMA dropships landed daily, deploying soldiers to capture strategic positions. But controlling territory on Earth was like trying to hold water in a net. Major Kessa Andra of the Lifebinders crouched in the ruins of what used to be London, her medical equipment useless. Her species were healers, trained to care for wounded soldiers from all sides. But the humans had made her job impossible. Every medical facility was booby-trapped. Every wounded soldier might be carrying explosives. The humans had turned the basic decency of providing medical care into a weapon of war. They poisoned their own wounded, she reported to her commanding officer. When our medics tried to help injured humans, the humans died from toxins they had taken before battle. The medics were exposed to the same poison through skin contact. Her scales showed deep blue patterns of distress. Sir, I don't understand these people. They are killing themselves to hurt us. Similar reports came from across the planet. NIGMA engineers found that every power plant they captured had been sabotaged in ways that took weeks to repair. Human prisoners provided false intelligence that led entire NIGMA units into carefully prepared ambushes. Captured humans would pretend to cooperate for months before launching suicide attacks. But the most disturbing reports came from the Intelligence Division. Commander Thexval of the Mindweavers specialized in psychological warfare. His job was to understand enemy thinking and predict their behavior. After 8 months of fighting humans, his reports had become increasingly frantic. They are not fighting to win, he wrote in his latest analysis. They are fighting to learn. Every battle teaches them more about our capabilities. Every captured ship becomes a laboratory for understanding our technology. Every dead human becomes a lesson for the survivors. He attached recordings of human radio transmissions, translated into NIGMA languages. Bravo, team. The alien shields cycle every 37 seconds. Attack during the down phase. Command, we've figured out how to jury-rig their power cores. The energy output is unstable, but it works. All units, the enemy has a blind spot in their sensor array, 17 degrees below horizontal. They're adapting faster than any species we've encountered, Thexval concluded. More concerning, they seem to view casualties not as losses, but as research costs. They are willing to sacrifice thousands of soldiers to learn a single weakness in our armor. The tide began to turn in ways that violated everything the NIGMA Empire understood about warfare. Dr. James Chen had been Earth's leading physicist before the invasion. Now he led a team of scientists working in hidden laboratories beneath the Sahara Desert, studying captured NIGMA technology. His team had learned more about advanced physics in 8 months than human civilization had discovered in the previous century. The alien power systems are elegant but inflexible, he explained to a gathering of human engineers and military officers. They're designed for maximum efficiency, not adaptability. We can exploit that. Chen's modifications to human weapons were crude but effective. NIGMA shields that could absorb directed energy beams had no defense against human kinetic weapons, enhanced with stolen alien materials. NIGMA sensors designed to track sophisticated threats were confused by human ships that mixed advanced technology with primitive tactics. The breakthrough came when Chen's team successfully reverse-engineered a NIGMA hyperspace communicator. For the first time since the siege began, Earth could send messages faster than light. What do we tell the galaxy? General Williams asked. Secretary General Santos, now leading the resistance from deep bunkers, smiled grimly. We tell them the truth. Earth is still fighting. Humanity refuses to surrender, and anyone who wants their freedom should start preparing for war. The message went out on hyperspace frequencies, reaching every corner of the galaxy. For species that had submitted to NIGMA rule decades or centuries earlier, it was the first hope they had felt in generations. On the world of Kepler-7, the gentle builders who had surrendered to the Empire 50 years ago quietly began studying human tactics. On Titan Station, the Cloud Dancers started asking questions about NIGMA weapon vulnerabilities. Throughout the Empire, client species began to whisper, if primitive humans could fight the Empire for 8 months, what could more advanced species do? Commander Zefkol received these intelligence reports with growing alarm. The human resistance was inspiring rebellion across the galaxy. The High Council was demanding explanations for the prolonged campaign. His own officers were beginning to question orders. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we've lost another supply convoy to human raiders. They're using modified shuttles enhanced with our own technology. Our escort ships were destroyed." Zefkol's scales shifted to angry red. "How many ships?" "7 escorts and 15 supply vessels, sir." The humans broadcast a message after the attack. "Every day you stay, we get stronger." The commander stared at the tactical display showing Earth, still defiant after 8 months of siege. The humans had turned his overwhelming advantage into a war of attrition. Worse, they were winning that war. Every day the siege continued, human technology improved. Every battle taught them new tactics. Every captured NIGMA soldier provided intelligence about Empire weaknesses. Zefkol realized with growing horror that humanity had turned the conquest of Earth into a university of warfare, with the NIGMA Empire as their unwilling teachers. "Send a message to the High Council," he ordered. "We need to change our strategy. The humans are not fighting to avoid defeat. They are fighting to become stronger than us." His communication officer's scales showed confused yellow. "Sir, that's impossible. We are the NIGMA Empire. We have ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years." Zefkol looked at the damage reports from the latest human attack, studying the tactical innovations that had destroyed 7 of his ships. "Send the message," he repeated quietly. News of the prolonged Earth campaign spread through the NIGMA Empire like a virus. What should have been a routine 6-week conquest had dragged on for 18 months. The casualty reports made even hardened military commanders pause in disbelief. High Councillor Morthex of the Stone Speakers stood before the assembled representatives of the 7 species that ruled the galaxy. Her ancient form radiated authority accumulated over 5 centuries of governance. She had overseen the conquest of hundreds of worlds. Never had she seen reports like these. "Explain to me," she said, her voice carrying across the vast council chamber, "how a single primitive world has cost us more ships than our previous 50 campaigns combined." The military advisors shifted uncomfortably. Admiral Rexthon of the Metal Shapers activated a holographic display showing the Earth system. "The humans fight unlike any species we have encountered," he began. "They show no regard for their own survival. They prefer mutual destruction to defeat. They have also demonstrated an unprecedented ability to adapt," added General Visara of the Death Singers. "Human forces are now fielding hybrid technology that our own engineers struggle to understand. They have taken our weapons and improved them." High Councillor Morthex studied the tactical reports. NIGMA supply lines were under constant attack. Human raiding forces appeared and disappeared like ghosts, striking at the weakest points in their formations. Worse, human ships were now equipped with modified NIGMA technology that made them nearly equal to Imperial vessels. "Most disturbing," continued General Visara, "are the reports from our client worlds. The human resistance has inspired unrest across 17 systems. Local populations are questioning Imperial authority for the first time in generations. The implications were staggering. The NIGMA Empire's strength came not just from military might, but from the perception of invincibility. If primitive humans could hold off the Empire's fleets, what did that say about Imperial power?" High Councillor Morthex made a decision that would have seemed impossible 6 months earlier. "Send Ambassador Vexithera back to Earth. We will negotiate." The idea of the NIGMA Empire negotiating with a conquered species was revolutionary, but the cost of the Earth campaign was becoming unbearable, and the political damage was spreading across the galaxy. When Ambassador Vexithera's ship approached Earth for the second time, she found a world transformed. The planet still glowed with the fires of war, but the orbital space around it bustled with activity that made her crystalline form flicker with disbelief. Massive shipyards hung in Earth's orbit, constructed from salvaged NIGMA materials and human innovation. The designs were ugly by Imperial standards, all jutting angles and exposed machinery, but they were functional. Human workers in environment suits swarmed over half-completed vessels that combined the best of both technologies. "How many ships are they building?" she asked her sensors officer. "Unknown, Ambassador. Our scans are being blocked by some kind of interference field, but we can see at least 40 vessels under construction. Vexithara's ship was escorted to Luna Base by a squadron of human fighters. She recognized the basic design as captured, NIGMA interceptors, but they had been heavily modified, extra weapons, improved engines, armor that her sensors couldn't properly analyze. Secretary General Santos met her in the same conference room where humanity had first rejected the Empire's offer. But the human leader looked different now. Her hair was gray, her face lined with exhaustion, and her eyes held the cold certainty of someone who had seen too much war. "Ambassador Vexithara," Santos said without warmth, "you wanted to negotiate?" "The Empire is prepared to offer new terms," Vexithara began, her diplomatic training taking over. "Humanity would retain self-governance. You would maintain control of your own territory. In exchange, you would provide military advisors to Imperial forces and share your tactical innovations." It was an unprecedented offer. No client species had ever been granted such autonomy. Santos listened without expression, then activated a holographic display showing the current state of the Earth system. NIGMA ships outnumbered human vessels 3-1, but the human forces were no longer the primitive defenders, Vexithara remembered. "Tell me, Ambassador," Santos said quietly, "what do you think has changed since your first visit?" Vexithara studied the display. Human ships moved with confident precision through space that should have been controlled by Imperial forces. Their formations showed tactical sophistication that rivaled NIGMA military doctrine. "You have learned to fight us," she admitted. "We have learned to beat you," Santos corrected. "Your weapons, your ships, your tactics. We've studied them all. We've improved on most of them. In 6 more months, we won't need captured technology. We'll be building ships superior to anything in your fleet." The human leader leaned forward. "But that's not the most important thing. We've learned." "What is?" "We've learned that the great NIGMA Empire bleeds. You can be hurt. You can be defeated. And most importantly, you're afraid." Vexithara's crystalline form flickered with alarm. "Afraid? The Empire has ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia. Then why are you here?" Santos asked. "Why offer negotiations to a primitive species that should have been conquered in weeks? Why grant autonomy that you've never given to anyone else?" The silence stretched between them. "I'll tell you why," Santos continued. "Because you've realized what you've awakened. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. We were learning. Every battle was a lesson. Every captured ship was a classroom. Every dead soldier was data." She activated another display showing hyperspace communication logs from across the galaxy. "Your client species have been watching, Ambassador. They've seen that the mighty NIGMA Empire can be bled. They've seen that resistance is possible. The logs showed increasing unrest across Imperial space, work slowdowns, sabotage, questions about Imperial authority that hadn't been asked in centuries. You came here to conquer one world," Santos said. "Instead, you've taught the galaxy how to fight you. Every tactic we've developed, every weakness, we've discovered every modification we've made to your technology. It's all being shared across hyperspace frequencies." Vexithara realized the scope of the disaster. The Earth campaign hadn't just failed to conquer humanity, it had provided the entire galaxy with a manual for resisting Imperial rule. "What do you want?" she asked. Santos stood up, her expression cold as space. "I want you to remember this moment, Ambassador. Remember that you came to our world and demanded our submission. Remember that we warned you to leave. Remember that you ignored that warning." She walked to the window overlooking Earth's scarred, but defiant surface. "The offer you made 18 months ago? We rejected it then. Today's offer? We reject it now. Tomorrow's offer? We'll reject that too." Santos turned back to face the alien diplomat. "There will be no negotiations. There will be no compromise. There will be no surrender. We are humanity, and we have never lost a war when our survival was at stake." She gestured to the orbital shipyards visible through the window. "But our survival is no longer at stake." "Is it? We've moved beyond that. Now we're preparing for the next phase." "Which is?" Santos smiled, but there was no humor in it. "You taught us how to fight. You showed us your weaknesses. You gave us your technology. Now we're going to teach the galaxy what freedom looks like. Vexithara left Earth with the certainty that the NIGMA Empire had made the greatest mistake in its 3,000-year history. They hadn't just failed to conquer humanity. They had turned humans into the one thing the Empire had never faced, a species that was better at war than they were. As her ship jumped to hyperspace, she carried with her the knowledge that the galaxy was about to change. The age of NIGMA dominance was ending, and humanity was preparing to export their gift for warfare to every oppressed world in known space. The final assault began with the deployment of the World Breaker. Fleet Commander Zefkol stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the massive construct emerge from hyperspace. The World Breaker was the NIGMA Empire's ultimate weapon, a moon-sized station capable of cracking planetary cores and rendering entire worlds uninhabitable. It had been used only 3 times in Imperial history, each deployment ending a war in minutes. The High Council has authorized complete sterilization, his communications officer reported, scales showing nervous yellow patterns. Earth is to be made an example to discourage further resistance across the Empire. Zefkol nodded grimly. 2 years of siege had cost him 400 ships and 12 million soldiers. The human resistance had spread across 17 star systems. Client species throughout the galaxy were openly questioning Imperial authority. The Earth campaign had become a cancer that threatened the Empire's very foundation. Better to burn out the cancer completely. "Begin charging the primary weapon," he ordered. "Target Earth's core." The process would take 6 hours. 6 hours to charge the gravitational manipulators that would tear the planet apart from within. 6 hours to end humanity's defiant stand, once and for all. Deep in the hidden command bunkers beneath Earth's surface, Dr. James Chen watched the energy readings spike on his instruments. The alien superweapon was unlike anything humanity had encountered. Its power signature alone dwarfed their entire planetary defense grid. "How long do we have?" Secretary General Santos asked, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the threat. 6 hours until they can fire, Chen replied, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. "But Maria, I need to show you something." He activated a star chart that filled the chamber with points of light. "For the past 8 months, we've been sending modified probes to every system within 100 light-years. Each probe carried our complete tactical database and technological specifications." Santos studied the display. "How many?" 2,000 probes. Each one programmed to find inhabited worlds and share everything we've learned about fighting the NIGMA Empire." Chen's expression was grim but determined. "If they destroy Earth today, they won't destroy what we've become." Around them, the final preparations continued. Earth's orbital shipyards had been working continuously for 18 months, using captured NIGMA technology and human innovation to build a fleet that would have seemed impossible 2 years earlier. Admiral Sarah Mitchell floated in the zero gravity of the ESS Defiance, humanity's first true capital ship. Built around the salvaged core of a NIGMA dreadnought, it represented everything humans had learned about warfare. Its weapons could punch through Imperial shields. Its armor incorporated alien materials that their own creators didn't fully understand. Its crew had trained for months and captured enemy vessels. "Status report," she ordered. "Fleet formation complete," her tactical officer replied. 2,000 ships ready for final assault. The hidden yards in the asteroid belt and Jupiter's moons are launching their reserves now. Mitchell studied the tactical display with satisfaction. The NIGMA fleet still outnumbered them, but numbers no longer told the whole story. Human ships fought with a savagery and innovation that Imperial forces couldn't match. More importantly, they fought with the knowledge that they had nothing left to lose. "All ships, this is Admiral Mitchell," she broadcast to the fleet. "Today, we end this siege. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity's children. Remember our people who died on Mars. Remember Luna Base. Remember every human who sacrificed everything so we could reach this moment." She paused, looking at the blue world hanging in space behind them. "We are the children of Earth. We have never surrendered. We have never knelt. We have never lost a war when our survival was at stake. Today, we stop fighting for survival. Today, we fight for victory." The human fleet began its advance toward the NIGMA Armada like a spear aimed at the heart of the Empire. Commander Zeph Cole watched the approaching human ships with growing alarm. His sensors showed energy signatures that shouldn't have been possible. Human vessels were generating power levels that rivaled Imperial capital ships. Their weapon systems showed refinements that his own engineers couldn't explain. "How many ships are they fielding?" he demanded. 2,000 confirmed contacts, his tactical officer reported, scales showing red patterns of stress. Energy signatures suggest they've divided their fleet into 3 separate attack formations. Impossible. Our intelligence reported they had fewer than 500 operational vessels. Sir, they appear to have been hiding construction facilities throughout their solar system. Jupiter's moons, the asteroid belt, even the outer planets. They've been building ships faster than we could detect them. Zeph Cole realized with growing horror that humanity had spent 2 years preparing for this moment. Every battle had been a delaying action. Every defensive position had been designed to buy time for their hidden shipyards to complete this fleet. The first engagement began at the edge of the NIGMA formation. Human attack squadrons, flying ships that looked like mechanical wasps, tore into the Imperial line with suicidal determination. But these weren't the desperate ramming attacks of 2 years ago. These were precision strikes that targeted specific weaknesses in NIGMA ship design. Captain Rexmore of the NIGMA cruiser Eternal Dominance watched in disbelief as a human destroyer somehow penetrated his shield grid and placed a series of precise shots into his ship's power coupling. The cruiser's main systems went dark just as 2 more human ships appeared from his blind spot. "How did they know exactly where to hit us?" he transmitted to the fleet command before his ship was destroyed. Similar scenes played out across the battle zone. Human forces fought with an understanding of NIGMA technology that seemed impossible. They knew where every weak point was located. They exploited flaws in Imperial designs that the Empire's own engineers had never discovered. The reason became clear when Dr. Chen's final surprise was revealed. Hidden among the human attack fleet were dozens of modified NIGMA ships, captured, vessels that had been completely rebuilt with hybrid technology. These ships looked alien from the outside but fought with human tactics and human ruthlessness. Leading this force was Captain Maria Vasquez, flying a modified NIGMA battleship that her crew had nicknamed the Payback. Her ship had been the flagship of a NIGMA admiral before her boarding team captured it 8 months earlier. Now it carried weapons that no NIGMA engineer had ever imagined. "Target the World Breaker's charging array," she ordered. "All ships, follow my lead. We're going to ram that thing." The suicide attack on the World Breaker became the largest naval engagement in galactic history. 200 human ships charged the massive superweapon while the rest of the fleet engaged the NIGMA defenders. The space around Earth became a storm of energy beams, missile contrails, and exploding vessels. The World Breaker's defensive systems were formidable, but they had been designed to fight conventional opponents. Human ships attacked from impossible angles, using gravitational slingshots around planets and moons to achieve speeds that their alien designers had never intended. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation, each dying ship taking out multiple defensive batteries. Captain Sarah Chen, flying the converted NIGMA fighter Vengeance, watched her squadron die around her as they fought through the World Breaker's defenses. Her ship was coming apart under enemy fire, but she could see the target ahead, the superweapon's main power core, exposed during the charging sequence. "For Earth," she whispered, and slammed her fighter into the energy coupling at maximum velocity. The explosion triggered a cascade failure throughout the World Breaker's power grid. Secondary explosions rippled across the massive station as containment fields collapsed and energy conduits overloaded. The superweapon that could have destroyed planets tore itself apart in a chain reaction that lit up the solar system like a new star. Commander Zeph Cole watched his ultimate weapon die and realized that the war was lost. The human fleet, bloodied but victorious, was reforming for a final assault on his remaining ships. His own forces were scattered and demoralized. The species he had come to conquer had become predators more dangerous than anything the galaxy had ever seen. "All ships," he transmitted on emergency frequencies, "retreat to hyperspace. The campaign is ended." As the surviving NIGMA vessels fled the Sol system, Secretary General Santos stood in the observation deck of Luna Base, watching the alien fleet disappear into the darkness between stars. Around Earth's orbit, the wreckage of 2 fleets drifted in silence. But humanity had won. What now? Admiral Mitchell asked, joining her at the observation window. Santos smiled, looking at the stars that no longer seemed so distant. Now we build ships, real ships, better ships, and we take our warning to every world that wants to be free. She activated a communication array that sent messages racing across hyperspace to every corner of the galaxy. The transmission was simple, but carried the weight of absolute conviction. This is Earth. We have defeated the NIGMA Empire's invasion fleet. We offer our alliance to any world that chooses freedom over submission. The Empire can be beaten. We have proven it. Join us, and we will teach you how.